So hello everybody and welcome at the Sheldrick Wildlife Trust, Nairobi Nursery. This is a center that is taking care of orphan baby elephants and orphan baby rhinos, and later on reintroducing them back into the wild. And that's why all the babies you're going to see here today are orphans, all having been rescued from different parts of the country with different reasons for being orphans. And so we rescue them so that we can hand rear them here in the nursery for approximately 3 years, and any time after the age of 3 start to reintroduce them back into the world. When we are reintroducing them back into the world, we will always reintroduce them to Tsavo East National Park, and the process of reintroducing them takes quite a long time before it fully happens. It takes a minimum of about 5 years before orphans get to interact and make friends with the wild herds, who can later on invite them and adopt them in their families. And once they get adopted, then we set them free and let them become wild once again. And by that time, we can say we've achieved our target, because the main target here is to rescue them, hand rear them, and later on reintroducing them back into the wild. So we've got the milk bottles for the elephants here now. It is at 3 p.m. in Kenya, and the elephants are about to have their bottles. We feed them on intervals of 3 hours, day and night. And so this is one of the feeding periods in the nursery. And they're all anxious, ready and waiting to come and get the bottle. They're always happy and excited and run towards the bottles. And that's why you'll see them coming in anytime from now. Before they come in, they've been in Nairobi National Park. All the bushes you can see around is part of Nairobi National Park. These orphans spend the day out in the park so that they can learn by natural instinct on how to behave as wild elephants out there. Within the park, they have the freedom to do what they want. They can play, they can feed, they can have a nap. Our keepers will always accompany them and provide assistance whenever needed, or protection or any help whenever needed. And that's why the keepers are with them day and night as well. So 12 elephants in the nursery now, all under our care, being fed on intervals of 3 hours a day and night. They'll be coming down for the bottles in smaller groups, depending with the number of the keepers that are ready to feed them. Because once they arrive here, they need the bottles ready. They need to have somebody ready to feed them. Otherwise, they'll be pushing everyone around. And that's why we bring them in smaller groups, depending on the keepers ready to feed them. Today, the one in front is Maktau. And Maktau is an elephant that is almost 3 years old. Maktau was rescued from Tsavo when he was only 3 months old. He was rescued from an area called Maktau, and he was found in our community. And you cannot tell we could not tell what exactly happened to the mother. But him being in our community makes us suspect that he might have been separated from his family by human beings. And at 3 months, he could not have survived out without the mother's milk. Elephants will start to develop the milk teeth at the age of between 2 to 4 months. These teeth are ready to start to feed on greens after the age of about 8 months. And over the age of 1 year, that is when they feed on some good amount of vegetation. But after the age of 2 years is when they can feed on enough to survive without the mother's milk. Otherwise, below that age, they still need the mother's milk. That is why at 3 months, Maktau would not have survived in the wild all alone. We do have an elephant by the name Nabulu, who is approximately 3 years old. She was rescued from the Masai Mara. She was identified all alone and observed for a long time, approximately 2 weeks, trying to hope that the mother will come and take care of the baby. She tried to reunite herself into different groups of wild elephants, but that was not her family, because they did not take care of her. They were not interested in her, which meant that she was an orphan. And that is the reason why we had to come in and help rescue Nabulu, who is now approximately 3 years old. Right in front or in the middle among the three is an elephant by the name Kiombo, who is also almost 3 years old. who was rescued from the Masai Mara, who was identified all alone within the park as well, who was as well observed, expected to be reunited in her original family, but it did not happen, and that's why it was need for Kiombo to be rescued. The three are already here, have already finished the bottles. Each elephant takes 2 bottles every 3 hours, and 1 bottle is about 5 pints of milk, and so in a day an elephant takes a total of 24 liters of milk. Remember, we add some porridge in the milk to make it a bit bulky, and that's why you can see it comes to a total of 2 bottles. And the elephants will feed on greens out in the park all day as well. You can see we've got lots of vegetation here for them as well. This is what they can find in the park, but interestingly, they like what we provide for them here more than what they want to look for themselves out there. It is a little bit warmer, and so the elephants might want to play in the mud. That's why you can see we've got water at our water hole today, and expecting them to get in. We won't tell them to go in. They decide by themselves what they want to do. We don't train them to do anything or instruct them, but we set them free and observe and see what they want to do, and we let them do what they want to do. So that is the first group of 3 out of the 12 elephants that we've got in the nursery at the moment. 3 more joining us, being led by Mukoka right in front, running very fast. And Mukoka is a 2-year-old elephant who was rescued from northern part of Savo East National Park, an area called Idumba. And Mukoka was identified by our aerial surveillance who were on patrol, managed to observe a young baby on the ground all alone, a small baby who was about 7 months. And they managed to observe this baby for some time, trying to look around and see if there is a sign of other elephants nearer, something that never happened. And that's why a decision was made to rescue him. On my left is the youngest elephant that we've got in the nursery at the moment. Her name is Naleku. She's approximately 1 year old. She's a very funny elephant, the youngest in the nursery, but very independent compared to what we always have in the nursery at the youngest. All the young babies want to be attached to the big females all the time. But Naleku has a totally different character. She wants to do her own thing. She's very independent. Once in a while, you'll find her standing close to the big girls, but she wants to play on her own. She wants to go feeding at a different direction compared to the others, which means she will be a very, very independent elephant in future. We do have the youngest boy, an elephant by the name Rojo, taking water from the water hole. And Rojo is about 17 months. Rojo was rescued from Savo West National Park. The mother is suspected to have been killed by poachers, and he was left alone at about 7 months. He was seriously stressed and traumatized when he came in because he saw what happened to the mother. He was totally hooked to the matriarchs in the nursery, and that is what he still does at the moment. All the time you'll find him close to Maisha or Nabulu. This is what he used to do when we had Tamiyoe and Tagwa around, which means he's still being affected by what caused him to be left an orphan. But after some time, all that will change, and he'll be able to stay an independent life. Being a bull, he needs to start to learn to be independent, because that is how they behave when they're out in the world. So the 2 young ones, Rojo and Naleku, taking water from the water hole at the moment. Far end, we've got an elephant by the name Ziwadi, who is approximately 2 years old, who was rescued from the Masai Mara, who is believed to have been abandoned by the rest of the family members, who later on was discovered to be epileptic when she arrived in the nursery. We put her on medication, and she's improved a lot. She's never had her seizures for a long time, which means she is healing well. We've got Maisha here, the main matriarch, the biggest in size, the mother figure, the leader of the group. And Maisha is over 3 years. Maisha was rescued from Sava Conservation Area. Her mother is believed to have died from starvation due to drought, and that is why she became an orphan. Closer to me is an elephant by the name Laro, who is 2 years old, who was rescued from the Masai Mara or Laro Conservancy, who was identified all alone, believed to have been separated from her family by human beings, and that's why she was left an orphan. Next to Laro is Naboishu, who is almost 2 years. And Naboishu was rescued from the Masai Mara. The mother believed to have died from a natural disease, and that's why Naboishu was left alone. Then we've got the latest arrival in the nursery, an elephant by the name Olorian, who is approximately 15-month-old, who was rescued from the Masai Mara, identified all alone within the park, observed for some time, trying to hope that she will find her family, but it never happened. Later on, she was found in the company of an injured bull elephant, which means she was totally an orphan. This bull elephant would not have provided milk to her, so she could not have survived out in the world. And that's why the reason why she needed to be rescued. You can tell she's still a bit skinny compared to the others, just because she had stayed for a long time without enough food. And being in the nursery after a short time, she will recover and come back to normal like the rest that we've got in the nursery at the moment. We had Kiasa coming in last at the far end. Next to Maisha is Kiasa, and Kiasa is approximately 3 years old. Kiasa was rescued from Sava Conservation Area. She's a drought victim. Her mother believed to have died from starvation due to drought, and that's why she was left alone. So that is a total of 12 elephants that we've got in the nursery at the moment, all under our care for the first 3 years. And after 3 years, we take them to Savo Park, Kibwezi Forest. We've got 3 reintroduction centers. One is we also have the Kibwezi Forest, Umani Springs, and that is where we take the elephants. We've got our keepers who will monitor them every day, who will lead them out in the park every day, who will ensure that they get to interact with different groups of wild elephants until the time they will be trained, they will be protected, they'll be warned against other dangers out in the world, and will all have become as wild as any other elephant out there. Some of them using the mud bath water to drink. And if it becomes a little bit warmer for them, they will go in to roll in the mud to cool themselves. You got Laro and Nabulu and Naboishu doing it. Rojo trying to lie down at the edge of the waterhole at the end. So if you're joining us now, we are at the Sheldrick Wildlife Trust, Nairobi Nursery. Welcome. The Sheldrick Wildlife Trust is a project that was started officially back in the year 1977 after the death of David Sheldrick, who was a naturalist and the pioneer founder warden of the large Savannah National Park. He died in 1977, and this project was started in his memory under the management of the widow, who is now the late Dr. Dame Daphne Sheldrick, who's been running the project since then until 2 years ago when she passed on, leaving the mandate to her daughter Angela Sheldrick, who was also running the project together with the mother for about 17 years before the mother passed on. And right now the project is under the management of Angela Sheldrick. Not only taking care of elephants and rhinos, but we've got other projects that we undertake. For example, we've got mobile veterinary units that will treat any injured animal within the parks. If identified, We've got KWS vets sponsored by the Sheldrick Wildlife Trust, who will go to the scene and treat the injured animals and set them free to continue with their own natural life. If the injured animals are an area that the cars cannot access, we've got a sky vet that will fly to the scene, help treat the injured animals with the vets, and set them free to continue with their own natural life. We've got anti-poaching teams that are based within Sava Conservation Area that will try to ensure that there are no poachers in the parks, there are no snares in the parks, there are no people burning charcoal in the parks. And all this is working together with the Kenya Wildlife Service because the anti-poaching teams are patrolling with the Kenya Wildlife Service rangers to ensure that the parks are safe. We also have a community project that will go around the communities that are neighboring the parks and the reserves, giving them education on how to coexist and stay peacefully neighboring one another with these wild animals. The community project will also go around the schools that are neighboring the parks and the reserves, giving education to the children. It is important for the young children when in school to learn more about conservation and conservation and wildlife in general, so that when they're fully grown, they will help protect and care for these wild animals. Nabulu enjoying the mud at the edge of the waterhole at the far end. We do have our aerial surveillance that will patrol the parks to ensure that all is okay within the park. If anything that is happening in the park that should not, they will inform the rangers on the ground who will act swiftly to ensure that it is corrected. And our anti-poaching teams will work together with our dog unit to patrol and ensure that there are no poachers within the parks. Some of the elephants want to enjoy the dust bath using their feet and their trunk at the same time. Using their feet to bring the dust together and collect it with their trunk. Just to give you a brief history of an elephant feet, it has got 5 toes on the front and 4 on the back, and the underneath of the feet is actually a very fatty, spongy tissue that is used as sometimes an absorber, a shock absorber that helps to maintain the weight of the elephant and also helps to ensure that the elephant walks quietly while in the wild. Naleku lying down next to Maktau. Rojo lying down between Maisha and Nabulu on the other end. Naboishu enjoying the mud bath at the edge of the waterhole. And Olorien enjoying the dust bath at the far end all alone. She knows that she's not very strong enough to go right in the middle of the rest. And that's why most of the time you'll see her enjoying all alone, because if she lies down, the others will want to mount on her and she's not as strong as they are. And that's why at some point she will want to do it all by herself. And the others know that as well, but they're all having different characters. Some are very naughty and will know that their friend or their colleague is weak and they want to bully them around. and some are very maternal and friendly, like the females, most of the females, and will want to protect and care. So they all have different characters, just like what applies with human beings. Mukoka rolling down in the mat right in front of Olorian, and behind Mukoka coming to join is Laro. Lying down close to Mukoka is Laro now. Everybody trying to test the water and see if it's warm enough for them to go down and roll in the mud. If you're joining us now, welcome at the Sheldrick Wildlife Trust Nairobi Nursery. 12 baby elephants before us now, all orphans, and that's why they're here with us. Orphaned from different parts of the country and with different reasons for being orphans. Some of them, mothers have been killed by poachers due to the trade in ivory. Some have been separated from their families by human beings, what we call human-wildlife conflict. And I'm afraid this is on increase in Kenya at the moment, human-wildlife conflict. And a few of them are orphans from natural reasons, like old age, natural diseases, and starvation back into the world. And all this happening to the mothers when the babies are still very young, at an age where they would not have survived without the mother's milk when they're below the age of 2 years. So that's why we have to rescue them. Lara enjoying the dust bath, lying down at the far end. After they've gotten some water on the body, they want to roll in the dust at the same time. They want to scratch on one another at the same time. Kiombo now lying down in the dust pile. You might have realized most of them at the same time as they play, they are feeding all the time. This is because elephants will spend most of their time feeding out in the wild. Actually, 16 to 18 hours out of the 25 hours of an elephant, it is feeding time. Or I would say 80% of their day is feeding throughout. So they sleep for about 4 to 6 hours in a day. And that's why they have just had the bottles, but they're still feeding on greens as well. Going round from one dust pile to the other. So if you're joining us now, welcome at the Sheldrick Wildlife Trust Nairobi Nursery. You might be interested in supporting these orphans. You might be interested in supporting the work that is being done by the Sheldrick Wildlife Trust. You only need to go on our website and find out how you can support. When you go on our website, you find out how you can donate. You can donate towards adopting an elephant, which is costing a minimum fee of $50 a year. You can donate towards buying a bottle of milk. You can donate towards the other projects that are being done by the Sheldrick Wildlife Trust, like the anti-poaching teams, the community projects, the mobile veterinary units. We've got the dog unit, the aerial surveillance. So if you go on our website, you can find out how you can support any of these projects that are being done by the Sheldrick Wildlife Trust. you will have helped to save the life of an elephant that would have died out into the world. You will have played your role by ensuring that these animals have a better life. Since they're orphans, they need to be taken care of before they are set free to go back out into the world and stay a natural life. So I'd like to take this opportunity and thank you all for joining us for this 3 p.m. feeding time. The elephants are already interested in walking away into the park, and so we shall set them free to go and continue for the rest of the day. Thank you very much for joining us for this session. Thank you very much for supporting the work that we're doing, and remember, stay safe as we shall continue to keep taking care of the orphans. Thank you and have a lovely evening.